Our next startup finalist, please approach the stage. Somebody who's been with us before, Walle Jensen from the company Unacast. Your clicker, sir, and please do it from here.
Hey guys, my name is Walle. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Unacast. We are the largest proximity data aggregator in the world. And I think one thing is good to be here at ICOM is that there's a lot of good companies out there that excel at collecting online data, really understanding what people do in online space at the most detailed level. And there's also a lot of companies now that start to understand what do people do in the offline space. Like, where do people go? What kind of location data is available? Mainly collected from GPS and lat and longs. But what I find interesting is to figure out, can we go even deeper? Can we go even more accurate? Can we start to understand what kind of stores people go to, what departments they're in, the aisle they're standing at, and even the products that they are touching? And that is actually possible now. We can be as detailed in the offline world as we can in the online world. Because right now, the whole world is being censored up. It's being censored up by proximity technologies, like beacons, NFC, QR codes, and Wi-Fi. Something that tells to a very, very precise level where do people spend their time in the real world. And right now, there's more than 6 million beacons deployed out there, on the track to have 400 million beacons deployed by 2020. So 400 million sensors that can tell something about where do people spend their time at the most accurate level. And every time they interact with the beacon, they of course leave a digital footprint behind. The question is, how do we aggregate that? How do we make scalable use of that data? So we have built the world's largest network of proximity companies. So you can see here on the right-hand side, this is a proximity ecosystem. This is where you have proximity solution providers deploying their technologies at retailer brands, auto shows, venues, concert stadiums, etc. And this is a very fragmented market. It's booming, it's fragmented, it's more than 350 players out there. So they all sit on a tiny, tiny piece of a consumer's offline behavior. On the other side of the equation, you have ad platforms, hungry for offline data, hungry for accurate, granular data. The challenge is that it's not scalable for one proximity company to integrate with all the different ad platforms. And it's not scalable for one ad platform to integrate with one proximity company and then the remaining 349. They all collect data in 350 different ways. They don't know how to manage the data. It's a complete mess, to be honest. And this is where we come in. Unacast is the aggregator and the harmonizer of proximity data. So we work with more than 50 proximity companies out there, where we aggregate all the proximity data, and then we normalize it, we standardize it, so we can serve it out on silver platter to the ad platforms, advertisers, and brands. Our network of 50 proximity companies now account for more than 1.4 million beacons, and we actually work with 90% of the industry in total to other initiatives. So I would claim and be a bit cocky on the stage and say that we are proximity experts. And if you have any questions later today, come up to me or my colleague Chris Cunningham here. If we can't answer it, we'll definitely buy you a drink. We know this space in and out. And on the ad side, we work with top-tier platforms like Oracle and Opera and AdForm. So how can this granular, how can this proximity data, how can that physical pixel be taken into use? So here's a use case that we have done with Coca-Cola and a cinema chain. Beacons were deployed at the cinema. Customers walked into the store, into the cinema, they received a ticket on their phone, they received a push notification with a free bottle of Coke, they redeemed the Coke, they watched the movie, they had a good time, and they went home. We collected all this data. So a week later, when they were sitting at home, surfing the news, they were suddenly retargeted with a 100% accuracy to high-interest people been to cinema or movie theaters. They saw an ad, a free movie ticket, if they went back to the cinema and redeemed it. So this was a classic retargeting campaign with attribution measurement, but at the most detailed level possible, only to the ones that have been at the cinema. And the results were pretty amazing. We saw that 24% of the people that were in the cinema actually clicked on that offer. It was targeted, it was local, it was relevant for them. And 60% of the people that sat at home a week later actually clicked on that ad. And of those people, 25% went back to the cinema to redeem a new movie ticket. So Coke, in this case, they managed to reach an objective of reaching their high tier 1 clients, the high tier 1 customers, the ones that are hugely interested in movies. And with this position that we have as the largest aggregator of proximity data, we offer a few products. One is you retarget. If you're a company that has deployed beacons, we will help you retarget your own customers online to bring them back to the store or to bring them to your e-commerce site. If you don't have your own beacons, you can tap into our pool of proximity data. And you can reach very accurate, very specific people based on their offline behavior. If you want to measure your ads, why not do that in the most accurate way possible? No guesstimating, no GPS data. We would know if that person that saw the ad for shoes also went back to that shoe store. We also have a few other services, which is Proxbook, largest proximity directory. We have a tagging taxonomy to harmonize the whole industry, starting now with our 50 partners. And to challenge the privacy concerns, we have location control, which is a service that allows consumers to opt out of data collection from proximity technologies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Thomas. Members of the jury.
Thanks, excellent presentation. Can you talk a little bit about your revenue model and also the remuneration model for your partners?
Yeah. So we have two models. One is a SaaS fee. If you are a company with proximity technologies deployed, you pay a SaaS fee to us. We will clean the data, we will structure it, and then we will plug it into the different marketing platforms. If you don't have proximity technologies deployed, you can tap into our pool of proximity data, and you will pay a CPM for that specific data. And then we also award our proximity partners when they share data into our network to make sure that we can fuel the network with as much data as possible.
That's a fixed fee, or is it?
Yeah, it's a fixed fee based on the CPM that we get in.
Any other questions?
On the right side of your first slide, there was only ad platforms as an output.
Yeah.
Is this your first step? Do you plan to make it available for marketers directly, for their apps or their mobile sites?
Absolutely. Like we see the ad space as the beachhead right now, the low-hanging fruit, but this is equally interesting in, let's say, retail analytics, like where do people go after they have left the store. That is the black box today. Same thing with e-commerce, like all the clicks that are done online to make recommendations are based on online data, but still most of the purchases are made in brick-and-mortar stores, right? So we can capture that data to fuel into the e-commerce, but kind of have an open API is what we are working on now, so that other companies can tap into the most accurate proximity data available.
Last one? Nope? Okay. So then I'd like to welcome on stage none other than Glenn White, Director Media Infrastructure from Electronic Arts. Let's give him a hand.
So one of the core challenges that we have is that we sell a product across multiple retailers, right? And each retailer often has their own beacon system and so on and so forth, and it becomes very, very difficult to aggregate all of that data. That's the current challenge that we have. If we could retarget individuals that were visiting one of the number of retailers that we have and send them information about the titles that we would like to sell to them, that would be a core use case for us. Yeah. But I thought briefly about some of the other things that you could do with it rather than just what was directly relevant to me. This seems to be like a really great idea for somebody that was setting up a large conference or convention and could put beacons all over the place and get a very good sense of what the traffic patterns looked like in order to be able to retarget people that had visited booths or whatever it is. Clearly the same thing. You've got a number of different kinds of beacons, and so the aggregation of that would make a lot of sense. If I were doing a mobile application, I could quickly create a scavenger hunt or provide rewards or badges or whatever it is for visiting locations. This is directly relevant to a lot of the games that we do, and you see Nintendo do a lot of that in terms of passing and so on and so forth. Something like this that aggregated a much larger base would give you a much better sense of the things that you could do instead of having to have very specific beacons, and there's a lot of value there. Yeah. And the last thing that I sort of thought of was if I was a DIY retailer and I had a number of superstores, whatever it is, I could determine where people were in certain aisles, whatever it is, and try to suss out what kind of project they were trying to do, and then send them information either through a paid media channel or through an owned media channel, the directions or assistance in helping them complete that project in order to be able to create better affinity.
Yeah, spot on. Very good.
Excellent. Okay, let's give him a hand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a seat.